All right, I am here on page 60. And now I'm going to be graphing in slope-intercept form. Okay, so what does that mean? I'm going to be actually graphing lines on a graph, and I'm still going to only be working with lines that are in slope-intercept form. Okay, there's other forms of lines, but we're just not working with them yet. Okay, so I'm still starting with my slope-intercept form. And here's where I start. Okay, I start with the understanding that in order to graph a line, I need 2 points. Okay, why? Well, look, if I say, okay, here's a line, pencil. I want a line that goes through this point here, this 11. Well, that could be this line, but it could also be this line. It could also be this line. It also could be that line. So telling you just 1 point doesn't really tell me what the line looks like. But let's say I say, okay, I want a line that goes through this 11 and this G. Well, then there's only one possibility, right? There's only one way to make a straight line that goes through that 11 and that G. So if we have 2 points, if we can, let's say we can all agree on the 2 points a line goes through, then we're all going to end up with the same line. Okay? So where do I get these 2 points from? Here's where I start. I start by plotting a point at the y-intercept. Okay? And remember, if I'm looking for the y-intercept and I want to plot it on a graph, here's my letter B, and I'm going to start here and notice, oh, that's a 4, or whatever it is. And I'm going to plot a point at 0, 4. If this is a -3, then I would plot a point at 0, -3. If this is a 0, then I would plot a point at 0, 0. Right? But I start, that's my first point, right? Because remember, I need 2 points. That's my first one. Okay, now, the next thing we're going to do is use the slope. We're going to use rise over run. To get to a second point. Okay, now, what does this mean? Okay, let's say the slope is 1/2. Okay, so these are just like some examples. Let's say the slope is 1/2. Okay, then what would I do? I would start, okay, and in fact, let's add this from the y-intercept. Let's just add that in your notes so you remember. You have to, so once you plot this point at the y-intercept, then you put your pencil on that point, or in this, maybe your finger on your computer screen, right? And then what do you do from that point? You rise and you run. So in this case, you would rise 1. So you would go, let's say you would go up 1. And you'd run 2 to the right. So you'd go 2 to the right. Right? So if the slope was 1/2, you would start the y-intercept, you go up 1, right 2. Okay? What if the slope was 4? You have to make this into a fraction. Okay? That fraction is 4 over 1. Right? 4 is the same as 4 over 1. So if my slope is 4, that's the same as 4 over 1, and that means I'm going to go up 4, right 1. What if my slope is negative? And it's negative, let's say it's -3/5. Okay? The key here is you take that negative and you attach it to the top. So I would say that's -3/5. And then what does that mean? That means I would go down 3, right 5. Okay? Let's say I had -2 was my slope. Well, any whole number becomes over 1. So -2 over 1, right? Again, this is rise over run. So this tells me up and down. In this case, it's down 2, right 1. Okay, let's do one more example, and then we'll actually take a look at some actual graphing problems. Let's say my slope is 1, right? There's nothing in front of the x. It just says y equals x plus 5 or something like that. That's the slope of 1. Well, that's still a whole number. It still goes over 1. So this means you would go up 1, right 1. Okay, now if it was -1, it'd be -1 up top here, and it'd be down 1, right 1. Okay, and right now we're going to take a look at a couple, I'll actually show you a couple problems right in Edge Elastic. Okay, let's take a look at this problem in Edge Elastic. Y equals 4x minus 3. Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking is I'm going to take my line, okay, and I'm going to start at 0, -3. So I'm going to put my line at 0, -3, okay? So that's my first step. Oh, sorry. Okay, now notice this second point, I can move it around. So I don't know where it's going yet, right? It's just going to drop it there for me, but I'm still looking for that second point. Okay, so far what I've done is I plotted a point at 0, -3 because the y-intercept was -3. Now next, I'm trying to figure out my rise and run. Now my slope is 4, but I need to change this into a fraction so I can have it a rise or a run. So 4 over 1, right? That's my fraction because 4 is the same as 4 divided by 1. So now I have a fraction. So that means I'm going to rise 4 and run 1. So that means I'm going to go up 4 and to the right 1. So let me grab my second point, right? And notice, look, I'm going to start at my original point. So here I am, my mouse at my y-intercept. Now I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, run 1. And that's where I'm going to drop my second point. Okay, so that's one question in Elastic. Let's look at one more together. In this equation, I have y equals -2x plus 1. So my y-intercept is 1, so I'm going to start by plotting a point at 0, 1. Once I plotted a point at 0, 1, right, so let me grab this. I plot my point at 0, 1. Now notice it just drops my point B just like right there, but that's not where it's going to go. But I'll move it in a second. Let's figure it out where it goes. My slope is -2/5. So what do I do when I have a negative slope? I just take that negative and I attach it to the top. So this is going to become -2 over 5. And so my rise is -2. Now my rise is negative, so that means I'm going to go down 2. And I'm going to go, my run is 5, right? Rise over run. I'm going to go to the right 5. Okay, so right now I'm going to go down 2 and right 5. So I'm going to take my other point. I'm going to start, look, I'm starting at my y-intercept. Now I'm going down 2, 1, 2, right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. I'm dropping my point right there.